All right, guys. Hello. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Come on in. Come on in. So you've got two domestic terrorists here tonight, just kicking it, right, Nicole?
That's right. Yeah.
We're just-
Very scary.
Yeah, we call that Sunday night around here, right? I'm here tonight, and thank you all for being. I'm here tonight with Nicole Solas, who you may have heard about her story. I mean, she crushed it on Glenn Beck this week, I have to tell you. But Nicole was sued by the NEA, the worst organization in the country, really, right now, for just, you know, wanting documents about how her child was being educated. She did, as it is her right, some open records request. NEA comes in, and then whammo. And Nicole, what your reaction was, which I love, and the whole country loved it, was bring it.
Yeah. Game on. I mean, you want to sue me? Fine. I'll fight back. I think they thought I would be scared or something, which I don't know why they would think that. And it's really not going so well for them right now. I mean, they blocked me on Twitter. They're so scared of me. And I think everyone in the country pretty much hates the NEA, and it's only getting worse.
Yeah. So they did something we call F around, and they found out. That's what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's fast forward and let's talk about, I mean, this is the NEA targeting you. And I think now the country is getting a full measure of how all of us are being targeted. And this didn't just stop at the NEA. This was just a continuation, right? Of this week, the DOJ said that we're going to have the most profound overreach in this country's history, and we're going to start targeting parents for the crime, we believe, of going after panorama surveys and making sure that at all our school board meetings, they know that we do not like child spying programs at all. What do you think? Why do you think that the DOJ has instructed the FBI to look into rowdy school board meetings without one scintilla of evidence?
Because I think this is a puzzle piece in a bigger picture. I think we're witnessing our government going after their ideological opponents. So we saw this happen in the military. It's, not just an education issue. For me, it did start out that way. I wanted to know what my daughter would be learning in public school. But fast forward 4 months, 5 months, and you're seeing that the government is now targeting parents and framing them as violent threats and domestic terrorists, but they're doing the same thing in the military, and yet they're singling out parents, right? Because they're not going after people that follow senators in the bathroom. They're not going after the BLM riots, and that was pretty blatantly violent. We had buildings and businesses burning to the ground. So I think what we're seeing is the beginning of an ideological purge, and parents are just another opponent on that list of their purge.
Right. I mean, we have these programs. Panorama is inclusive of this, but social emotional learning, and we've been talking about that. And I think you're so right, because look, what they're doing to our children is they're not saying, okay, if you've got behaviors or maybe academic performance that you need to be screened for something or treated for something or trained about social emotional learning. If you've got behavioral and outward signs of things, we're going to help you. No, they're examining the contents of our children's mind, their very conscience, their very beliefs, and they're repeatedly surveying over and over and over again in these SEL classes. And if you are guilty of wrong think, they're going to fix it.
Exactly. And another thing SEL does is that it assumes that all kids are traumatized, right? And so now we all have to be trauma informed. And if we're going off of that premises, they also say that, well, in order for everyone to learn at an optimal level, we all have to feel safe. Okay, well, how do we feel safe? Well, we have to make the students identify all of their immutable characteristics and rank those characteristics on a scale of power and privilege. So that way now we're more or less safe next to someone that has a different color skin than we have. So it's really a way to usher in a new social caste, and they're starting that in school, so that way our children will now grow up to have a totally warped sense of the world and how to relate to each other.
Correct. And what we're talking about here is the government examining the contents of your child's mind and the government choosing the type of attitudes and beliefs your child is entitled to have, or else because I don't know if you know this yet or if this is happening in Rhode Island, but there's also in North Carolina and other states they're medicalizing this. So if your child is guilty of wrongthink, they'll be psychoanalyzed and treated by psychiatric teams and medicated, if you will, in some instances to have the right think. This is human rights abuse on a massive scale at the hands of our own government.
Yeah, and you want to be able to get your hands on the education record at your child's school, and you also want to request to see. I think it's like so I don't know what it's called, but it's the psychological records. So schools might have two classifications of records, and you want to make sure that you have both of them. So that way you can see if your kid is getting psychological help at school and you don't know about it, and you should know about it.
Yeah, you absolutely should. But I want to just show you something that's probably not going to happen, Nicole. And let me tell you why. You've got these type of lessons are what's going on inside of schools. In an SEL lesson. And it is, if you're like me and you can't read this up close, I'm going to read it to you. Tell me about your friends. My best friend's name is something my friend does that worries me. My mom's name is, and what kind of relationship we have. This is an actual SEL lesson, and they all look the same. So if they can't get this information, Nicole, from a survey done once, twice, or three times a year, they're going to get it. In North Carolina, SEL is a part of all 12 academic standards, be it math, basket weaving, homeroom, doesn't matter. They're going to get this information. This is not going to be a part of the education records. Let me tell you something else, because states are putting this in all 12 academic standards. It's a part of the master curriculum. And as you know, parents cannot sue over the master curriculum of a state. That means it takes the legal options largely off the table when it comes to surveys, when it comes to even psychological treatment. This is a sneaky way North Carolina does it. It's been done and ushered in by both parties. It's not a party thing. It is a money thing.
Yeah, you're right. Have you heard about, and I don't know how effective this is, the federal law? It's called PPRA. Have you heard of
Yeah.
that? Okay,
Alex,
what do you think
yeah.
about using that to prevent them from giving your child surveys?
Well, here's the issue. When we're talking about FERPA and PERFA, it does not give a parent a private right of action. In fact, what these are, it's just a general guideline for a district or a state. So if you're going to do a lawsuit against a district, you can tack that on. And what I'm saying is evidenced by this. What is a normal course of action for you, Nicole, if your child had those rights violated? You would write a complaint to the OCR, the Office of Civil Rights. Under Biden, they'll do exactly nothing, right? But
Right.
under, let's say, Trump or someone else, they would warn the school district. So there is no lawsuit under that. That's the issue. And schools know this, so they can be violated and it wouldn't be a big deal. But we are in this state looking maybe at having the first lawsuit against Panorama. We hope so, because there's certainly a lot of plaintiffs lined up, and that would be something that we would definitely include. So I want to tell you guys, we get this all the time where parents say, hey, what about this? They broke this law. There's not a private right of action to sue under that. Now, if you were not told the surveys were going on, maybe a private right of action. Or Nicole, we've got parents here that a dad called in and say, hey, listen, we do not want our child taking this survey. And principal says, okay, cool, fine. And the next day, the principal calls the child in to the principal's office to force and coerce them to taking that survey. That is a private right of action.
Right. I can't believe that happened.
It did. It did, and it does. And it makes us wonder, is there some incentive structure maybe that Panorama has with the principal or maybe the superintendent or the state where, you know what I mean? It compels them to get as many surveys as they can.
Right. Like what are these people who are really just bureaucrats in public school? Like, what is their interest to do something like bringing a kid into a principal's office and forcing him to take a survey? That it's so extreme that you can't help but think there's got to be something else going on here.
Well, couple that with now we're in the line of fire, if you will, for asking for Panorama to be defunded. I mean, let me tell you what happened in this state. Um, right around May 30th, something like that, we, Education First Alliance, put together a petition that asked the Department of Public Instruction and the state school board to defund Panorama. We got over 2,000 activists that weekend to sign the petition, sent it, to the superintendent, and literally June 1st, the whole bookcase caves down on us. The superintendent went after us saying that we were liars, attention whores, do not trust us. We were infiltrators, things like that. Called us, I mean, everything, completely attacked us, called, various, public leaders and told them to do whatever they can to silence us. Tried to have one of our employees or one of our volunteers fired from their job. Let's see what else. Had sheriffs waiting for us outside of one meeting that we were invited to attend to what, I don't know, make a scene and have us locked up, did everything in their power to discredit us. And it was about the time where we were asking for Panorama to be defunded. It just makes you wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is all because you had a petition, which you have every legal right to
Correct.
have and present at a public meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
that's amazing.
Correct. And so, again, Nicole, you're a pioneer because you were the first to say, hey, bring it. But we are hearing of other people that are having a lot of courage because of what you have done and your openness and willingness to discuss this, in various forums. We have to thank you very much for what you've done for us and for this movement.
Thank you. I'm so glad because I didn't want to be the only one out there, and I'm really glad that people can, use my example to say that you can push back against your government when they're targeting you and when they're putting your kids in danger. So I really hope people keep doing it.
Well, they absolutely will, and because of you and because of your willingness to speak out and to show people what it looks like to fight back, because that's really what you're doing. You're, via Twitter and via your many appearances, you're showing what it looks like to fight back. And so I want everybody to take note, to follow Nicole, and along these lines, before I forget, our Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson, has really, really stood up for parents and for children. I mean, we are, very grateful for his support. Right after the DOJ came out with that awful letter saying, hey, parents, you're the enemy now. He came out with a statement of his own that said, look, this is a serious overstepping of rights. I mean, to my knowledge, it's what, First Amendment rights, freedom of association, things like that.
Yeah.
And so our lieutenant governor is really behind us, and not everybody has that type of leadership in their state. I know that in Rhode Island, you certainly don't.
No, Rhode Island is very, very liberal, very democratic. I mean, I used to be a Democrat. I'm not anymore for the obvious reasons. And it's really a shame when you can't rely on the people who have power to fight other people that are harming kids.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's important for us to be creative and think of ways that we can, throw sand in this machine, because even if we're not going to win the ultimate battle, we at least have to slow it down until we can think of other tactics that are going to be effective. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, we have a superintendent here of schools who is Republican, who has told everybody, hey, the state has nothing to do with this, man. You're on your own, and go to your school board meetings. As soon as people start going to their school board meetings, she calls us violent. So you know what? I mean, it's a complete, travesty. We've been let down by so many people. And to your point, they have something we don't have, and it's each other. And,
That's right.
and we,
So, and another thing we have that they don't have is we're truly the only ones that have an interest in our kids, and only our kids. they're always going to say, oh, like the teachers union is always going to say, oh, we do it for the kids. And all these other people will just use the kids as like, their banner for all the reasons that they do what they do. But it's fake. Parents are the only ones who have their kids' interest at heart. And that's why we are the only ones that can advocate for them and that we know will fight for them. Everyone else is faking it and using your kids for political reasons and for financial reasons. So
Financial.
yep, exactly.
Yeah, financial, because there's a heck of a lot of money in all this. And we don't know the extent of that. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I mean, around here at EFA, we're investigative journalists. So that's what we do best. That's our bread and butter. That's what we do first. So, and in getting all of that out, it makes us especially dangerous. We don't rely on the media to get our message out. We're able to do that. And we do it, as much as possible. And you need to do that, as you were doing. I mean, you were using investigative reporter techniques with the open records request to try to get out these facts. And I know that you're not done yet.
Yeah, that's right. We're still in this lawsuit against the teachers union. And, they still have to give me the information that I want. So, information continues to change. Like, for example, I think my school is going to do their equity audit soon. So that's going to be even more information that I'm going to request. Just because they're suing me for my public records request that I've already made doesn't mean I'm not going to make more, because it's our civil right to do that. One of the scary things is that when this all first started, my own state representative tried to change the public records request law in Rhode Island to prevent me from submitting more public records requests. So it's really amazing how all these people in positions of power look at us like we are dangerous, when really, use their language, they're the ones that are the oppressors, right? Because they're the ones with power over people and they're abusing it.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. This stuff is so crazy. I mean, and again, we around here, we marvel at, I mean, this is like David and Goliath, and they're acting like they're David or something.
Yeah, they're acting like they're victims.
I
don't know who is actually fooled by it.
Yeah, no one. It's just something they can do maybe to sleep at night, but they had to try Ambien instead. I'm just saying. Yeah. So what really piqued my interest is you're working on something that we're struggling with here, and that is pornography in our libraries in North Carolina. We have about 8 districts right now that we have books in, and I'm going to show you that this is another example of how our lieutenant governor has stood up, been willing to take the slings and arrows for us, or the arrows really for us, and say, hey, we are not going to have this pornography, this filth in our schools. He said we're not going to have LGBTQ filth or gay porn filth. It may be ineloquent, but his point was, we're seeing gay pornography in schools. If it would have been heterosexual pornography, or if there is, we're going to stand out against that too. Any pornography, I think his comments have been taken completely out of context, but I want to warn you, what I'm going to show you is going to be disturbing. We've tried our best to block some of this out. The reason we're showing you is because this is what our children are going to have to see. This is the pornography that we have been talking about, getting it out of libraries. This is a sin. I mean, and by the way, we have many gay couples in our coalition who do not like this. They think that it is inappropriate for their children to see. It is, it's horrible. So the myth that this is gay bashing, that is an absolute lie. This is universally condemned. I mean, this is terrible. So you have a great solution. It's something that we've been talking about. You want to call the fuzz on them.
Yeah, today I submitted this evidence because my school district has this book. This book is called Genderqueer. Sorry, not my school district. I'm still not clear if my school district has it. A neighboring school district has it. They had put it on display for like open house or parents' night, and then they took it down.
Let me
They
interrupt. The book you just said are the pictures I just showed everybody.
Right, gender queer.
Mm-hmm.
The school, this is North Kingstown High School in Rhode Island. They, according to what a parent told me, apologized to the students after they took this book out of the showcase that they had it in. But they had it at the school. So I submitted evidence of this to the North Kingstown police, or the state police. And I just said, please investigate. You don't have to be a lawyer to submit evidence of what you believe to be a crime. And in this case, I do believe that it's a crime to have this book in school. All you have to do is just bring your evidence to the police and say, can you please investigate and see if any statutes have been violated?
I'm trying
So,
to pull up your I think I got it here. I'm going to show everybody your Twitter feed and what you filed, because that really caught my interest. It's something that in North Carolina we need to be doing here. Nancy, you're absolutely right. This is a total crime. And we are preparing to do something about it here in this state.
So I wrote, I just typed this up. I, Nicole Solas, a South Kingstown resident, submit evidence of distribution of pornography in North Kingstown High School. The book Gender Queer is on display and available to minor children. Attached is a picture of the pornographic book on display and a picture of the pornographic pictures. I also included an email chain that was between a parent in the North Kingstown School District and school officials. And it was her telling all of her concerns to the school, and then the school responses. So when I came home, I started looking more into Rhode Island laws, because I thought, okay, maybe I can find the law that like I think applies. And what I do think applies is a Rhode Island general law called Child Nudity Prohibited in Publications. This is Rhode Island General Law 11-9-1.1. And I'll just read, I won't read the whole thing. I'll just read the part that I think is pertinent. It says, every person, firm, association, and then they list other kind of entities, which shall publish, sell, offer for sale, loan, give away, or otherwise distribute any book, magazine, pamphlet, or other publication, any photograph, picture, film. Basically, if you're a person and you distributed a book that has pictures of children under the age of 18, and they're performing sex acts, or it looks like they're about to perform or engage in sex acts, that is illegal, because in Rhode Island, we have a prohibition on child nudity in publications. So I read this law and I thought, well, I think we meet the requirements. We got some person at the school did this. We have a book, we have pictures, we have children under the age of 18 depicted, and they're certainly performing sex acts. What are the penalties for this? First offense, be punished by imprisonment for not more than 10 years or by a fine not more than $10,000. So I think this is the law on point. I've talked to people in Virginia, and they have a similar law. So I encourage people to look up something like that in your state if you want to see. But again, you don't have to look up the law. You don't have to be a lawyer. You can just submit the evidence to police and say, okay, you do your job. Tell me if you think a law has been broken. Now, that being said, the next step is bringing charges. So in Rhode Island, we have a very liberal attorney general. He publicly characterized himself as an activist. So even if my state police investigates this and says, okay, we think we have enough to charge the North Kingstown High School school officials who would be, responsible for this, the next hurdle is getting your attorney general to bring those charges. I don't think that's going to happen in Rhode Island, but if it doesn't happen, well, then that's another step. Maybe we can campaign for that to happen, and we can put pressure on the attorney general to do the right thing by protecting kids, by enforcing laws that are supposed to protect them.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, and I think what you're saying, it really encourages me. I mean, I think everybody needs to find what their law is and take action immediately, because look, I mean, we're tired of people not being held accountable for what they're doing. People don't realize that social emotional learning, their main goal, one of their main goals, it's gender change. I mean, so and that's something that again, it's universally unliked, right?
Yeah.
It's something that, whoever has, and I'm going to get up the North Carolina law. This is a law that we're talking about, obscene literature and exhibitions. It's a class 1 felony here in North Carolina. What EFA is going to do is see that we hold the people responsible that are doing this. You may wonder what counties. I'm glad that you asked out there, metaphorically speaking. Orange County, Cabarrus County, Charlotte, Mecklenburg. We have evidence in Dare County, Durham County, and where else am I leaving off? There's 6. I have a couple more, but that is so far, right? And this is the North Carolina law. So we're looking at holding people responsible in all counties. So, Nicole, you do have to go to Chapel Hill naturally. You do have to go and find a friendly DA, if you will, and sheriff. And unfortunately, there are all too many George Soros DAs and sheriffs out there, and certainly they exist in North Carolina. But it doesn't stop you from trying, because look, I mean, when these sheriffs come up for reelection, or these DAs, this is something that the public needs to understand they failed to take action on.
Right. Submit everything that you think is actionable by your DA or your attorney general or whatever, and then keep a list of all the things that they didn't take action on, and then use that against them when they run for reelection. So there's no move that you're going to make that, even if it doesn't work out now, you could maybe use it later. So don't be hopeless and think, oh, I know my AG is never going to do this. Well, you know what? You're strategizing. And if my AG doesn't bring charges for this when he can, well, it's going to bite him in the ass later.
Yeah.
So just, keep track and keep going and do everything you can do in the moment.
Yeah, we can only control what we can control.
Right.
And if we sit around and do not do our best, and that includes following official channels, right? The official channels would be, filing a complaint, etc. Then that's on us. Chris Taylor, you asked, is this the one? A pastor recently spoke up about a book called Lawn Boy, I believe, which has absolutely graphic. It portrays, I believe, animals doing sex acts on people, and that's the one that's in Wake County. I'm sure this genderqueer might be there as well, but I mean, equally abhorrent stuff. And this is the kind of thing that, yeah, Chris, that's it. This is the kind of thing that we damn well better show up to the school board for. Thank you very much. We have a right to show up to the school board. In fact, this is the very thing that going to the school board meetings is supposed to be for, and to alert the public, and to persuade people that we elected, thank you very much, to be on our school board, to do the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. Just getting the message out there is probably the hardest part. You can try different ways to do that. Like one thing I learned is, when I send an email to my town council email address, it becomes an automatic public record, and it's placed on the agenda of my town council. So they may be able to strike it from the agenda or something if they determine that it's strictly a school committee issue. But, I'm still going to try to do that. Just to try all these different channels to get the message out there that this kind of stuff is in school and it shouldn't be there.
Yeah. And amen. And thank gosh for you, because again, I mean, this stuff is a pain in the ass. Definitely. I'll be the first to admit that this is not business as usual. But, I also submit this to you. Had the collective we been doing this for the past 10 years, we wouldn't be in this boat right now, because the things we're talking about, be it at schools, certainly at schools. I mean, we are on the front line, tip of the spear here, but in the military and through all of the other institutions in our country, if we had made big deals out of these things, instead of saying, it's not going to happen here. we wouldn't be in this mess because we have been passive for too long.
Yeah, we've been passive. We tend to react. We don't, you know, take the lead in create in claiming our own narrative that we want to have in this country. Um, and also, like, this all started out as kind of like really fringy, right? No one, it's so
Yeah.
absurd that no one took it seriously. If you tried to talk about this stuff with people like 5 years ago, I don't think people would really believe you. I think you would have been looked at as a conspiracy theorist. So I think we had a lot going against us because it was just so incredible.
Yeah. Well, 5 years ago, my children were in a Jewish day school, and we were actually sued. We pulled our children out because the first sign was they pulled the map of Israel off the wall, saying that it hurts people's feelings.
At a
And
Jewish school.
yeah, I kid you not. Well, now we know that self-hating is part of critical race theory, right? It's part of that doctrine. And then we saw, people who are teaching our children Jewish history and all that, petitioning for the death and destruction of Israel on the weekends while they came in to teach our children during the week. And we went in, you'll recognize this. We went in, we said, listen, love what you have going here. Not for us. We're out. We were called bigots, narrow-minded, right, intolerant, etc., and to penalize us and to well, I mean, really abuse us. What they did was they sued us and they tried to boycott our business. Jews boycotting other Jews' business, bizarre, right? And ended up having left-wing rabbis write things about us, etc. So, I mean, we were talking about this 5 years ago, and we were perceived as absolutely insane. It took us about 6 months within our own community to be believed. And now we know that Durham and Chapel Hill, that was where critical race theory was perfected, operationalized, codified into a curriculum in and about the year of 2013. That's when it actually started. That's where it was perfected. So we didn't know it, but we were in the hotbed of that.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. I mean,
I definitely feel you on being targeted, et cetera, because when you come out against this, I'm telling you, even in your own community, you will be public enemy number one, and people will stop at nothing. But you just like you have done, you've made a decision that if someone is going to take money from my hands in protecting my child, it'll have to be by court order, right?
yeah.
And so you're fighting back.
Yeah. And, you know, yes, the retaliation risk is there, but
Mhm.
it's going to be different for everyone. I mean, your story is extraordinary, but I also just want to give people a little bit more encouragement and try to demystify the retaliation fear a bit, because I can tell you in my town, I mean, I'm at the grocery store like every day now. Nobody has a negative thing to say to me. The only
Okay.
people that talk to me are people that come up to me and support me. The other day I was driving, I was at a four-way intersection, and a car like waved me down and was like, oh,
Oh,
I
that's
think I think that's Nicole. And so now we're friends on Facebook. We're gonna
great.
go get coffee.
Great.
So I mean, like, I have not, I have only made friends. So just also know that in your community, that can happen to you too.
Yeah,
And
it
don't be
will.
scared of, like, don't be too scared of getting like sued and
Yeah.
ostracized, because you may also just become a leader in your community too.
Yeah. Yeah, you will. I mean, you will. Look, I mean, once you take your first punch in the face, the rest of them become easy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like, getting the sheriff to come to your house and serve you with that lawsuit. Once that happens, it's all manageable, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's manageable. And by the way, you're a leader. You're officially deputized a leader. You are in the respect of your peers, and and people depend on you. I mean, look, God chooses the people who, a lot of times have a lot to lose and say, hey, you're it. And if you fail to stand up, that's on you. That's on you. David, uh, I want Nancy Anderson, if you're on, would you please drop the names of all the books into the chat for David. Yeah, we want to know the books, the actual titles to look for here, because we want, all parents to go. You mentioned something to me that you were not able to look for those books online.
Yeah, so,
What happened?
I thought that I could access my school district libraries. I asked the principal of
Yeah.
the elementary school that my daughter would have gone to because I removed her and put her in private school. And I can't have a patron account. So what I want to do is be able to go into like this elementary school's library online, just like you would like at your regular public library. And I want to be able to like look at the books and open them up online like you do on Amazon or whatever and like see what's in them. And I can't do that. Our kids can go to school and look at their books in their library. Why can't parents see the books in public school libraries? We paid for them. Our kids are seeing them. And, good luck trying to get into the school to go to the school library. I'm sure they'll give you every excuse in the world why you can't just peruse the catalog in person. But it's sort of this new idea I have where I thought, why can't I just have a patron account of all the public school libraries in Rhode Island? I paid for them. Why not? So I'm kind of just mulling around that new idea and saying, I wonder if that's an issue. It's like why a taxpayer can't access that, and shouldn't we be able to access that?
Well, thank heaven we are here. I mean, we're able to. What we're doing here, Nicole, is we're not just checking online and saying, okay, it's there at that school. We're also having kids go in to see if they can check it out. Unfortunately, no one's in a library. Yeah, that's true. But Susan, this is a way that people can see online what is in there. So tomorrow, I mean, we verified in Orange County, in North Carolina, in Hillsborough, tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. If you live here, I want you to join us. We are having a rally to really just show support for the idea that, hey, kids are not going to be looking at this filth. Just like our lieutenant governor said, he made a statement, a strong statement. So the least we can do is show up at this school board meeting on the outside. And if we're allowed to go in, perfect. And just kind of all come together as parents and say, we're here to protect our kids. This is universally wrong. Everyone, okay, unless they are a damn pervert or predator and they don't need to be in the school system anyway, everyone roundly disagrees to that level of perversity being in these schools. So tomorrow, Orange County, Hillsborough, please, even if you're a half hour away, please come in and join us. We have the information on our Twitter and on our Facebook. But Nicole, are you guys rallying in this way? Or do you know of groups in Rhode Island that are getting together at the school board meeting and say, hey, no.
We have quite a bit going on in Rhode Island. We have a parents group. Someone I know started this like Parents Unite group. We have a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit against the governor for the mask mandate. I know we're not talking about masks, but that's another sort of authoritarian angle to this whole big picture here. And where every day I get like tips from teachers and parents that are like, oh, did you see this in school? Do you know what's going on here? So I don't think there's like a real organized group in Rhode Island with critical race theory, but we have parent groups forming all over and the awareness is raising. And, I'm hoping that it's still going to continue to keep going and take form. And I mean, what you have going in North Carolina is just like amazing. I would love to get to that level someday. But it's definitely like a different culture now that everything has happened to me in Rhode Island.
Yeah, I mean, I used to live in Massachusetts, and I mean, I don't even think this would fly there, to be honest with you, because Massachusetts, at the end of the day, the way that they're unique is that academics are first, and they are always ranked number one. And I know that they have social emotional learning, but I can tell you, to the extent that it would interfere with academics, it would not happen. And so I'm not sure how they're balancing that. To be fair, I'm not keeping up with it. Rhode Island, I mean, I used to cover all the Northeast for surgical sales, and covered several cases, neurosurgery cases at Brown, where they operated consistently on the wrong side of the brain by accident. So there you have it. I mean, and that's an Ivy. So there's no, nobody has a lock on common sense. What can I
Yeah.
say?
And I do think it is in Massachusetts because I know Judicial Watch either filed a lawsuit or uncovered critical race theory in Wellesley. I think they had racially segregated classes or some racially
Oh,
segregated
nice,
activity. Yeah.
nice.
So I don't
Excellent.
think it's like not in Massachusetts, even though they normally have a very good academic program there. They
Yeah.
have really good schools in Massachusetts, but I think they're not really good right now.
Well, I was educated in Massachusetts, and I can tell you, in fact, my son was born in Newton Wellesley, and yeah, they. I used to say that they're next level, but in North Carolina, I mean, we have 27 chapters across the country, two, in fact, in California. North Carolina is the most progressive and the most far gone education system in the country, bar none. A lot of that stems from this advanced stage medicalizing uh, the SEL. So they have critical race theory, which is really a tool, and it's being used in SEL as punishment. But putting in psychiatric basically units into every single school, that's being done here in North Carolina. And the age of consent is going to blow you away. The age of consent to get mental health treatment in North Carolina is 0. So you don't need any parental consent at all to be able to get the treatment. Yeah. So check this out. The age in California is 12. And so we're seeing through SEL, through those books, through all the grooming, we're seeing puberty blockers being given at 12 years old without parental consent or knowledge. North Carolina, conceivably, you could do that younger.
Puberty blockers without parental consent.
Yeah, happening in California, kids are killing themselves. Mm-hmm.
And how are the kids getting puberty blockers without parental consent? Like,
glad you asked. Sorry to have to tell you. What's happening in California and in other parts of the country is that there's a concept called community schools. Community schools are what this is becoming. So in other words, you can go to a school and get medical treatment for everyone. Okay, not for just kids. So the reason, Nicole, these surveys are happening, it's screening the contents of the mind, not outward behavior, the contents of the mind. If you don't get the screening and then the curriculum, okay, to change beliefs, and if that doesn't work, you go to medication. They have this in North Carolina. I want every single person to look at their state, Project Awake and Project Aware. Look at it, find it. This is a medicalization part of SEL. And so the goal of SEL is to help kids change their gender, really. It's a very, very big part of that. And so what we have now is teachers are the screeners and the diagnosers of mental health issues. That is an absolute. So and they're not qualified. Obviously, they're not qualified. And in North Carolina, they all have qualified immunity. And so children wearing masks, by the way, can be diagnosed with psychiatric issues. How would you even know? Again, there can't be a damn thing about the outward part of it. They're examining the contents of the mind. The reason why the surveys are being done is to examine the contents of the mind, nothing outward at all. And then kids and must be, as according to our law, referred to psychiatric treatment, which can be done via Zoom.
Yeah. No, this is there's nothing
alert
good that will come of this. There will only be unintended consequences or exactly the outcomes that they want, that they're really just socially engineering. So that is terrifying. That's really terrifying.
It is terrifying. So look, we know that in surveys, if it's a universal screening, right? And what precipitates the survey isn't based on behavior or an outward manifestation of something, then we know the endpoint has nothing to do with anything but the contents of someone's mind or beliefs. If the input has nothing to do with, outward behavior and his attitude beliefs, then the outcome is also attitudes and beliefs. We know that the input and the output is identical. So we know that the output must be, right? It's not a change of behavior. That's not what they're looking for. It's a change of attitudes and beliefs. This is why it's horrific. This is why it has to be fought. This is why lock my ass up and take me away. I don't give a damn. I am going to keep while I'm still breathing. This will not go on while I'm still breathing. I'm telling you. And I've got thousands of parents here, Nicole, in North Carolina that believe the same. So the names of the two Project Awake, Project Aware. North Carolina has this. They're doubling down on this. Let me tell you about a county that also has had this for years, several years. And it is Palm Beach County. And they're being sued by Southern Poverty Law Center, who I hate. But I'll tell you something. They deserve this lawsuit. Let me tell you why. Children are being taken away in handcuffs to mental facilities for fake diagnoses. And instead of being, either suspended or disciplined or whatever, let me tell you what's happening. Disproportionately, Black students are being taken away in handcuffs as young as 8 years old. This is crazy. This is crazy because they're being screened and diagnosed and targeted. You want to talk about a police state? This is a police state. Right
Yeah.
here is a police state. It's a mental police state.
You can't have the government diagnosing mental illness in children.
No, and labeling them for the rest of their academic careers. This is a government spying program, and it's a labeling program, and it's really a social credit score. And then the government wants to shut us the hell up because they know we're onto them. We're foiling their plans. And we need to quadruple down on this. And tonight, what I want everyone to do that's watching here is I want you to share this with 10 people. You don't have to like them. You don't have to really know them well. You don't have to anything, but you must share it. You must share it. You must warn people.
Yeah, I think that if you
Okay, so Nicole, she is out for right now. She's probably coming back on. I think we just burned up the wires on this. Hey, I think we blew up Twitter, and that's why you were off, Nicole. Are you back on? Oh, I think she doesn't know she's back on, but she's back on. But anyway, yeah, good, Susan. Thank you. We want you to share it with 10 people. You have to get the word out. SEL is the tip of the iceberg. Panorama surveys are the tip of the iceberg. We have to get these out of our school. We cannot be intimidated. We will not be intimidated. I'm glad Nicole came on. She's talking about taking it to the next level with this pornography, really turning the government on the schools, turning the government on the wrongdoers who are peddling this pornography in all of our schools. We have to do it. We have to stay strong. We're going to stay strong. Education First Alliance is who we are. Please look us up, become a part of us. Definitely. We're at the tip of the spear here to saving our children for sure, to saving our communities and the country. So we ask you to share this again with how many people, you guys? 10, right? Share this with 10 people. Tell them about it. We have to